Father, we are so surprised by what your word is interested in. We think it's only interested in heaven, maybe some morality and salvation. But you made all things, and you are concerned for all things. That you want us to not only come together to praise and worship and read the Bible, but to have meaningful relationships in dating, engagement, and marriage. And so we just open ourselves to your word. We listen for what you have for us, especially for those here in the audience today who are single, who are asking big questions about finding that someone. We ask that your word speak to us, teach us, and mature us up as we seek to be like your Son. In the name of Jesus, amen. So we continue in the Song of Solomon series, and as you guys know, the book Song of Solomon is a progression. It starts off with attraction, and it's going to end with being married for a number of years and what that's supposed to look like. And last week, we talked about attraction, what I would invite you to consider a healthy kind of attraction is supposed to be, what the Bible tells us healthy attraction is supposed to be. But now we're going to talk about dating, and that's actually what we're going to see in the passage, two people dating one another. And now when we talk about dating, I don't know how some of you guys feel about it, but sometimes dating is hard. I remember it being like difficult. I remember it being like a real challenge. And even lately, so Jenny and I, we will go out to eat, and we're at a local restaurant, maybe we're at Pandora, and we'll see two people, a man and a woman next to us on the left side, and maybe a couple of tables over, man and a woman over there, and Jenny will kind of nudge me and say, they're on a date. Like, you could tell they're on a date, right? Because they got that awkward body language. They're talking in resume, like this is what I do, this is what I believe, this is what I'm into, blah, 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 blah. They're kind of interrupting each other. They're making eye contact, but then they're looking away. You can tell that they're on a date. And part of you is like, oh, that's so sweet. And the other part of you is like, oh, so cringe. It's so cringe. You just feel so bad for them at this moment. But you also know it's what you got to do, right? You got to date for engagement, for marriage. And so I actually reached out to some of our young adults, and just to double check, maybe my memory was wrong, maybe dating is fun and something that we should be excited about, and this is what they said. I guess dating is just really tiring. You have to decide if the person you're dating is compatible with you and worth your time. Getting to know someone brand new can be fun and interesting, but it can also be exhausting. And then another one said, what I dislike about dating, this gets negative, at least in today's society, is the expectation that people have for it. I know before I met blank, I disliked how it seemed like a what can you do for me mindset rather than what can we do for each other. I think we expect someone to fill a void in our lives that we ourselves cannot. I know that only Jesus can fill that void, but blank keeps me grounded to that. And that's why sometimes relationships don't last as long as people would like, because of that mindset. This person goes on to write, I also think because of social media, people only like to share the good things about dating. When the guy buys the girl flowers, when they do cute stuff together, when they go out to an expensive dinner, but they never really necessarily highlight the difficult parts of dating, the arguments, conflicts, the deep, uncomfortable conversations, the emotional, heavy part. But who would? I know I actually had this expectation and idea of dating before I met. This person goes on to write, and kind of expected dating to be all love, happy times, and butterflies. But relationships, dating is hard work. You have to work hard at it each day, and not in the sense of literally working hard to make things be okay, but rather when things get tough, long distance, miscommunication, conflict, you work hard at making it through. You talk things out, build a foundation of love and trust, and face conflict as you two against the problem, not you against each other. And that's just dating, wow. And then another person says, people are not who they always claim to be. This is why dating sometimes is cringe. but it is important. It is necessary. And obviously, it can be good, as we're going to see today in Song of Solomon. What we're going to see, actually, I want you to imagine a man and a woman sitting at a coffee shop, looking at each other, and maybe with affection or with love, and they have this banter back and forth. That's what we will see in Song of Solomon. There will be these two individuals who are, as we could say, in love, and they are saying certain things about each other. Now, the things that they say will seem, maybe at some level, a little bit shallow because they're kind of critiquing one another. They're assessing each other. But what they are saying, while it might seem like something on the surface, it actually, especially through a biblical lens, is speaking to something deeper about dating, who we should be looking for, and how we should look for the special someone. So we start here in the Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 9. And this is the guy. The guy is sitting across the table from the girl. We believe historically it's Solomon, referred to as king, and then later on, the woman, the Shulamite woman. So, but in this passage, as this Solomon character, who seems to be the king, speaks to her, says, I compare you, my love, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. Single guys, don't quote this. Like, don't say this to the girl. Your cheeks are lovely with ornaments, your neck with strings of jewels. What do we see here from Solomon? What is he doing? What you should recognize first is that Solomon sees her. He's looking at her. In fact, most of the language, when it comes to Solomon, when Solomon is speaking, it's about what he sees, the person he sees. When the woman talks, she often won't talk about who she sees. She will talk about his presence. So for him, it's the person. For her, it's the presence. It doesn't always play this way out between men and women, but it often can. So he is looking at her. So the first recommendation, especially for those in the dating world or back in the dating world, the first recommendation, men, is when you're sitting at that table across from someone you're attracted to, see them. That's your number one job. Look at them. Truly look at the person in front of you. And why? Why is this important? Because often, especially in those first couple of months, you're nervous, you want to win her over, you want her to see you as attractive. So you've read all the blog posts about how to get a girl. You followed all the Instagram and TikTok influencers. I see some smiles in the room. The TikTok influencers. You go in like a tactician and you're ready to get the woman. But most of the messaging from all of the dating sites is about what you need to do. So your entire focus there at the table is I need to look good. I need to be attractive. I need to know how to lead this conversation. I. And while you're focusing on me, you're not focusing on her. By the way, women can tell. Sometimes when a date goes from, there's a first date, but not a second or third, it's because the woman walked away from that first date saying, well, I know a whole lot about that guy, but he didn't ask me a question. He clearly wasn't concerned about me. But the other thing that's important is what we actually see here in the passage. He says, I compare you, my love, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. What does that mean? So when Pharaoh would be leading a parade or an army, there were always horses drawing chariots behind him, like his soldiers and his lieutenants or whatever. They're drawing, but those are just regular horses. They would have been like stallions. But Pharaoh had a special horse, a mare. usually white, and as we see in the next couple of lines, your cheeks are lovely with ornaments, your neck with strings of jewels. Actually, this is what a horse would be wearing. Cheeks are lovely with ornaments. There would be like these beads hanging from the cheeks, and your neck with strings of jewels. What he is basically saying is about this mare and then about her is that you are different from everyone else. You're distinct. You are unique. See, single guys, when we're sitting at that table, not we, no, I'm good. When you're sitting at that table and you're looking across and you're looking at her, you should be looking for things that are distinct and unique. First, that really is a big deal for the person that you're trying to date. But secondly, you are looking for who this person will be, not today, not tomorrow, but in 15 to 20 years. See, you can go into the dating relationship wanting to talk about what you have in common, and it's all good. Grew up in Irvine, blah, 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 like to sing music, blah, blah, blah. But I am telling you, what will come up in year 5, year 10, year 15 are your differences, not your similarities. And so you should be identifying that right away. And hopefully that her differences, and this can work for both sides, his differences is beautiful to you. You are attracted to that. And so we continue, and it says in verse 12, we'll jump down to verse 12. Now let's look to the other side of the table. This is the woman. She looks at the man and says, while the king was on his couch, my nard gave forth its fragrance. Nard is just an ointment, it's a perfume. My beloved is to me a sachet of myrrh that lies between my breasts. My beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossoms in the vineyards of En-Gedi. So do you notice something at this moment? So he looks at her and is describing her features. She's not really looking at him. She's first talking about the couch they're sitting on, right? She's talking about the environment. And then what she says here, when she talks about the sachet of myrrh that lies between my breasts, myrrh is a fragrance. And so women would have that on their body as they go to sleep, and it would fill their bed with this sweet aroma. And what she's saying is like, it's like you are near, you are around, even in my bed. First, that is to be a very erotic statement. It is indicating what she wants. But what's more important is she is also saying, I like it when you're near. Like being on this couch and being in my bed, it's like this nearness. It is who you are. So for single women, when you're dating, the question should be not necessarily about me. How do I look at this moment? Is this, am I saying the right thing? The question should be back to him. Do I like his presence? Because here's the truth. You're going to be sitting on a lot of couches with him for the rest of your life. And if this is not a good vibe at this moment, imagine it 15, 20 years from now. But what can happen is, because we are human, we often think about ourselves in these kinds of situations. In these moments, especially dating, it's just me, I. How do I feel? How do I look? What does he think about me? You're not stopping to say, but do I actually like being around this person? Because if that person that you're sitting next to is willing to grow and change, that you sense, you can't answer all the questions right away, but you sense that this is a person who's willing to grow and change, that's definitely someone you should consider. But if you sense that this person is petty and closed-minded, then you have to understand the truth about that. Whatever they are at that moment and whatever vibe they get in that space will be exponentially worse. It is not to say that you're supposed to look for Mr. or Mrs. Perfect. They do not exist. I went into marriage with Jenny broken broke. She was perfect. I was broken. Right? I was broken. But what was important is that in the moment where my brokenness collided with life, would I be willing to go and seek the help that I needed? That's what you got to figure out. Is this person humble enough and open enough that when it comes to their limitations and their issues, they will be able to address that? And if they are unwilling to do that now, if there's some resistance, if their pride is greater than their humility, that should be a flag for you. Should be a flag for you. And so we continue and we go back to the other side of the table. And he says, behold, you are beautiful, my love. The man says to the woman, you are beautiful, my love. It seems very external. It's just about her looks. But now he's going to define what he means by beautiful. Behold, you are beautiful. Your eyes are doves. See, for us, again, it sounds like poetic, flowery language, something you would find in the Song of Solomon. But this is actually a euphemism. Doves back then and today are known for one thing. They mate for life. Commitment. He is saying, I can tell you only have eyes for me. So, single guy, you're sitting there, you're at the table, and you're trying to you're trying to impress her, but you're stopping yourself and really focus. What you should also be looking for is commitment. But commitment, not just that she will support you, but that she wants to partner with you, that she wants to actually run this race with you. See, they talk about, so women look for certain things when it comes to romance, but by the way, men, they experience romance too, but very differently from women. How do men experience romance? Through partnership, shoulder to shoulder, playing together. Playing together. It's like the sense like we're on the same team, going through life together. Sociologists will point out that for a man, and one particular sociologist, Fisher, points out that hey, if you're on the golf course and you look over and you see a husband and wife playing golf together, the first thing that's on that man's mind isn't oh, look at that ball and chain. She won't even let him go play golf. The first thing on that man's mind looking over that couple is jealous. I am jealous. I wish my wife would play with me. Yesterday, Jenny and I went on a date. 3 hours of pickleball. I was in love. In love. I'm not joking. Jenny was hot. I was in love. Right? That means something. So again, I come back to those who are seeking that forever someone. One of the things you should be looking for is, do you sense that this person on the other side of the table wants to do life with you? If there's kind of I'm not into that, I don't like that, I'm not interested, I don't want to go to church with you, I really don't want to move there. If there's a lot of that negative, just off-putting, it's something to consider. Because one of the elements of marriage is partnership. And the worst thing that can happen, but any one of us can slip into this, is we become roommates. And you don't want that at year 15, 20, 30 to become roommates for each other. And the next thing that is said is the woman looks back at him and says, behold, you are beautiful, my beloved, truly delightful. Our couch is green. We're back at the couch. We're back at the couch. This indicates, once again, she's not looking at him. She's talking about his presence, what it's like to sit with her. So they're out there on this couch, and scholars would say that they're in some kind of an open field, and it says in verse 17, the beams of our house are cedar, our rafters are pine. What does that mean? What that means is they're in this open field, sitting on this couch. There's a real energy, a real chemistry, and she's looking out at the forest in front of her, and in her mind's eye, she sees a house, she sees a home. What is she saying? She's saying, no matter where I am, it's home. You make me feel like I'm at home. You make me feel safe. And this is important. And of course, I would say in the traditional ways of making one feel safe, that financially speaking, and even the man just being someone that she can count on in the moments where she needs to feel protected. But it's not just that. It's that the man provides not only the physical protection and not only the monetary protection, but provides time, affection, presence. All those things makes one feel safe. That the man, if it came to it, would sacrifice himself for her. And so single women, you're sitting there, you're at the table, and you're looking at him, and it's going really well. You're on the 5th date, the 6th date. One question you've got to answer is, if it ever came to it, would he sacrifice himself for me? There might come a day. You've got kids at home, 6, 7 years old. And I'm talking to the women. You got kids at home, 6, 7 years old. And your husband, there's whispers around the office, like he might become VP. His career is finally going somewhere after a decade. And then you get off the phone with your mom and dad who are on the East Coast, and they're not doing well. And you're the only child in your family who can actually take care of them. So a couple of things might have to happen. Either you have to fly back and forth to take care of mom and dad, so someone's got to stay home with the children, or you might have to uproot your entire family and move to the East Coast. And if the husband at that moment at least doesn't strongly consider and say, you know what, my career is not worth abandoning our family, then you're going to have a problem. What should happen, what you should be confident in, is that sometime in the future, you can look at this man and say, I want to take care of my family. Do you mind putting your career on hold for a little while longer so we can do what needs to be done? And by the way, Jenny and I have had similar conversations, where I wanted to go this way for my career, but because things came up, I made a different decision and went this way. I became a pastor. No, that's not what happened. I was always gonna be a pastor, but I went this way, and I said, and it took a while, and I was pretty fleshly about it, and we struggled, but I came around and said, I am going to sacrifice who I am and what I have for her, because her sense of protection and safety is important. But there's a benefit of this. There's a real fruit that can come out of this. Because while she is talking about this sense like, you just make me feel safe, you make me feel protected when I'm with you, it's also supposed to be taken as everywhere I go with you is home. It doesn't matter who we are and where we go. I just want to be next to you. I just want to be next to you. And if you have made those sacrifices and committed to the woman and really giving yourself to the woman's needs, what begins to happen is you guys go through ups and downs, and it doesn't matter where you're at. She just feels like you're there to take care of her. She is confident that you are with her. Last Friday, 2 Fridays ago, actually, let me back up. I told a friend of mine that Jenny and I had just celebrated our 21st anniversary. And they said, well, what'd you do? So a couple of Fridays ago, I explained, we went to Chick-fil-A. I'm like, Chick-fil-A? I'm like, we have a 5-year-old. on your anniversary, 21 years, you're probably going to go to Chick-fil-A. And I remember sitting there at Chick-fil-A with Jenny, and Malachi runs off to the jungle gym to go play, and she looks at me and she smiles. And she says, "Happy anniversary." And I said, "Happy anniversary. This is us." And we laughed. And why did we laugh? We laughed because we realized that no matter where we were, no matter what place God put us, this would always feel like home. There's a picture of us. We've gotten to go to some special places. On the right, that's Buca de Beppo, 2006, in San Diego. That was kind of fun and exotic for us. At that time, we were living in Texas, so we flew out to San Diego and stayed some time. So it was a nice place to eat. And I believe on the left, that's Switzerland, right? That's a cafe in Switzerland. So we got to go to a really nice cafe in Switzerland. That was a real nice date. And so what we laughed about was it didn't matter if we were in San Diego or Switzerland or Chick-fil-A on a Friday night, we're together. And so men, when you create this sense of safety and love in your home, no matter where you are, will be home for her. And so we're going to actually jump down to the last couple of verses that I want to address. And it says here, in verse 3, "As an apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among the young men." So this is her talking about him. "With great delight I sat in his shadow, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. He brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love." Now verse 5, "Sustain me with raisins." In this translation, it doesn't quite say it, but a number of scholars would translate, instead of raisins, it's raising cakes. Raising cakes is an aphrodisiac back then. So what's happening? They've gone back and forth at this table. They've had some pretty impassioned conversations. There's definitely an attraction. And she has come to this point where she's just being very transparent, that she wants him in the fullest sense. And so we continue. "Refresh me with apples, for I am sick with love. His left hand is under my head, and his right hand embraces me." So now she is imagining the bridal chamber, like where they could truly go in this moment. But then you see this warning. And it's a warning between any young couple in love. And the warning is this: "I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the does of the field, that you not stir up or awaken love until it pleases." So what Song of Solomon is pointing out is what's natural, that when two people come together and then the sparks are flying and everything that they really need for one another, they're giving to one another. There is a natural sexual attraction. It is not bad, but it's not good for right now. Do not stir up love too early. It is not good for right now. Tommy Nelson, a pastor in North Dallas, says it so well. "There's nothing wrong with sex. Sex was designed and made by God between a man and a woman. But think of it this way. Fire is good. If you have a fireplace and you put the logs in and some paper, some matches, and it lights up, it's great. We like that where it's at. It's contained. It's where it should be. But fire is not good if it leaps out to the carpet, up the walls, throughout the house. Because it is so beautiful, because it is so precious, because it is a thing to happen between two individuals, it must be controlled and saved for the wedding night and beyond. What I would argue is look back to all the things that we just said, that you need to be present, that you need to be committed, that you need to really know the person. Sex has a way of stunting all of that. If a man shows up on a date and all he really wants is sex, do you think he's really there to know her? To fully and to know her in a deep and profound way? Because sex becomes this uncontrolled thing in a relationship. It is designed for the unity and the culmination of what the man and the woman experience in their dating relationship up into engagement and the wedding night. But if we take it out of as Tommy Lee, or not Tommy Lee, maybe he says this, Tommy Nelson, out of the fireplace and let it spread, then it grows wild and it overwhelms everything. And so as we continue in this series, what I want us to take away and what we have to see is most important is that you are looking for someone, of course, to share your life. You're looking for someone to ask the big questions. But in doing so, you do have to take your heart and your mind off of yourself in those moments and really look at the other person. Not to critique, not to judge, not to diminish, but to know. Because when you know a person, then there will be this unbreakable certainty that this is the person I'm supposed to walk with for the rest of my life. This time, I'd like to invite the worship team forward as I pray. Father, what a beautiful thing you've given us. Romance and intimacy and the potential of a lifelong partner. But it's confusing too. It's overwhelming. And it can be discouraging. And so we just ask that for those who are dating, that you give them the heart of Jesus to walk into these relationships as selfless as they can, with eyes wide open, willing to really know the other one, so they can make those kinds of lifelong decisions that we know will affect us for the rest of our lives. But I also pray for our married folks in this room. It is easy through all of the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs, the arguments and the fighting and the bitterness and the unforgiveness, for our relationship to grow stale and cold. And so with that servant's heart that we have to have when we're dating, reignite that in our marriage relationships too. Help us date one another again. Really care for the other person on the other side of the table. Create a sense of safety. Create a sense of being known. It's what your Son did for us, and it's what we must do for others. In the name of your Son, amen.